Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. I hope you had a good weekend. Starting off the week, 2023 elections, just about what's in the focus of just about everybody in the country now, one way or the other. And so preparing for it, 2023, as we all know, is just around the corner. We thought we'd look at insurgents, or insurgency, if you want, as a threat to the 2023 general election, if indeed it is considered that they do, insurgents that is, or the concept of insurgency, does threaten the 2023 election. My guest is the Chief Lecturer, Nigeria Institute of Journalism, Dr. Jide Johnson.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
A fine morning to you, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Indeed.
And good morning to our viewers all over the world.
Thank you very much. Because when we talk about insurgents, for this kind of a conversation, so what exactly is insurgency? Who is an insurgent? And, then we go on to how they possibly could or maybe not threaten the 2023 election.
Well, from a narrow perspective, insurgents are those groups or elements within the state that have risen up to protest using guerrilla warfare tactics against the state established institution trying to subvert
the constituted
authority within a given territory. That's from the narrow perspective. But from a broader perspective, looking at it from 2023 election, I think that we should extend it beyond the narrow perspective of talking about Boko Haram, IPOB, and all other groups or elements that have raised up arms against the corporate existence of the Nigerian nation, to include all anti-democratic elements. All anti-democratic elements that might subvert the 2023 election, which is a watershed election.
Could we then extend this explanation, if not definition, of the term insurgent or insurgency as causing disturbances but stopping short of a full-blown revolution?
Well, that's from grammatical point of view. But from operational point of view, the goal and the aim is to have a change in government, a change in structure, or a change in territorial definition or description of any given society. Because revolution has mass support. Insurgency comes from a narrow support base and a gathered momentum over time, and whereas revolution relies on the mass, insurgency relies on guerrilla tactics
and terror. Terror as a tactic.
The wave of terror using guerrilla tactics, arms, and the rest of it to foment violence and terror within the society. And if you look at what Brian McNair, one of the foremost political communication scientists in the world, what he said when he categorized political actors, he actually gave terrorist organization as major political actors within because there are three elements within the political actors. You have political organization. Under political organization, you have political parties. You have a terrorist organization. Then you have the media as the second actor, and the people as the third major actor. Part of political organization, which is the first actor, are terrorist organization, and you find insurgencies under that. And you agree that various insurgent groups have political intention. Whether you move from Boko Haram to IPOB to all of these, have political intentions.
Because there are these kind of groups all over. Although I don't know if all of them would agree that they are insurgents, but as you said,
from the
activities, and sometimes
from the characteristics of the group. The word characteristics is the character of or the nature of something or someone. So from the characteristics of the group, they are defined.
and
So
then guerrilla operations,
yeah, so
which is
one,
violence.
they embrace guerrilla operations.
Yes.
They challenge constituted authority. They threaten the existing structure within
of the society.
within the and they foment violence, and they gain compliance to terror. So basically, the various organizations we have identified in Nigeria belong to that group. And if you do it by extension, to look at all other anti-democratic elements that might subvert 2020, then you begin to bring in kidnappers into it. You begin to bring political talks into the conversation. You begin to bring saboteurs within the system.
Within the system itself.
Within the system.
Tell you what, Jide, I beg your pardon. I've got to go on a quick break now. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. ó ní ọgbọ́n tá a máa ń dá sáwọn èèyàn tẹ́lẹ̀ but ká kàn ra àfihàn sílẹ̀ ni ẹ̀yìn ibi tán ti mọ̀ọ́mọ̀ ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ nìyẹn náà ibi tó ti ṣe wọ́n ti mọ̀ọ́mọ̀ ó ní kíní kan tó máa fi ń wé báyìí so gbogbo nǹkan
kò ní peak surrounding noise.
ó kàn máa dáńpù náà ni. Okay, welcome back. And, as we said, Dr. Jide Johnson is our guest, and we'll be looking at the whole question of insurgency as a threat to the 2023 elections. Is that making a mountain out of a molehill, or is it indeed something that does bear consideration? So, actually, the first few minutes, we sort of tried to get our definitions right as to what exactly, and you had extended it beyond all these non-state actors that are, throwing themselves against constituted authority, and as we said, stopping stopping just short of revolution, whereupon I imagine they might be called whatever they will be called, but insurgents. You said we could have also widen the field to include even, kidnappers, all sorts of criminals, political thugs. Well, in terms of anything that could potentially
insurge
the
2023
general election.
When we say there's a power surge, when it's a power surge disrupts the entire electrical supply within a given circuit system.
So the question now is, do we have such a situation, or as I was saying earlier, is this more of a molehill than a mountain?
It's a mountain that we need to climb. For example, when you look at the presidential election, which is a one constituency election, the presidential election is a one constituency election because it's the president of the federation, and there's a constitutional requirement that must be fulfilled for the president to be elected. One, he must score the highest number of votes. Two, he must score 25% of the vote cast in 2/3 of the states in the nation before, and then we don't want to have scenario of inconclusive election. Just imagine if there were no elections in about 10, 15, 20, or 30 local governments. of.
I can, yeah, exactly.
I get my point.
That would render things a bit inconclusive.
That could render, just imagine the tension. Look, let's take a cue from the Brazilian election, from the presidential election in Brazil that was just concluded over the weekend. You recall that one in Brazil, you must score at least 51% of the votes for it to be declared. We saw the outcome and how it was heavily contested. And if you see, recently, presidential elections have become debatable, contestable, even that in well-developed democracy like that of United States, we have the 2020 election generally contested by the sitting president that lost the election. So when we look at the implications of not having the opportunity to hold the election, one, simultaneously in all of the local governments and polling units that we have in the nation, then there is a threat. And we must, as a matter of urgency, look at what steps can we put in place to ensure that elections are held in all of the local governments, in all of the polling units, particularly and specifically for a one constituency election, which is the presidential election. And then, 2023 is important. Important in the sense that it will be the second cycle in which we have had a president completing a 8-year tenure uninterrupted. And then we'll be transiting from the completion of a tenure to a new administration. So it's important, it's critical that we put everything in place to ensure that election is not disrupted by activities of insurgents and other anti-democratic elements within the state. You recall that for a longer period of time in Imo State, they were setting ablaze INEC offices. In Anambra State, all of these elements we must factor in the sense that on the day of the election, in preparation towards the election, when sensitive and non-sensitive materials are being released, how do we get them to get to the actual polling unit? These are the issues that we must look at. And we also recall, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, the INEC took a drastic measure in weeding off from its staff some of the staffs that were involved in anti-democratic activities. So those ones, they are engaged. Those ones too are insurgent because they want to subvert the democratic process. So these are areas that we need to look at how to secure, because the most important thing is securing the election, because the credibility of the election is tied to the ability to secure the transparency of the election.
And when we were looking at when you were looking at all the groups that conceivably could be referred to as insurgents, IPOB was among them. But IPOB has said that it is not against political rallies in the southeast, adding that IPOB is quote unquote not interested in Nigerian elections. And we know what they've been doing in the east. They've banned rallies across the southeast on a Monday, but all of those kind of things. Now we're hearing that actually they're not interested in it. So I don't know. These are the kind of things that probably one should take into consideration. I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, well, when a group says they are not interested in what happens in Nigeria, and there's no other country as of today legally recognized and legally constituted and recognized by the United Nations Charter as well, other than Nigeria. So there's no other federating units or confederating units within the nation Nigeria. So by character, we are not, insurgent is not a Nigerian word. It's not an Igbo word, it's not an Hausa word, it's not a Yoruba word, it's an English word. So by character, by nature, by actions and inactions, you agree that those groups are insurgents by character and by nature, and they are trying to survive. Now, when you say you are not interested and say people can come out to campaign on Monday morning, when you stop people from going about their normal business on Monday,
so what
Monday,
exactly are you doing?
which is the first official day of the week, you are striking the chord. Whoever takes away your economic power has taken away your right of survival and subsistence. And what else do you have as human? So as far as I'm concerned, by nature, by design, the POP is an insurgent group.
Now, people can say what they want, of course. This is the nature of democracy, and in as long as what you're saying is not treasonable. But just reading, I think last week there was a report that the APC presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the APC, they have fixed their campaign timetable in Imo and Anambra for Mondays.
Yeah, because if you want to be president of Nigeria, you must demonstrate leadership.
Yes.
Leadership to ensure that you maintain, one, territorial integrity of the nation. Mm-hmm. Two, you secure lives and property. And three, you don't succumb to threats of various anti-democratic groups within the society. Like you pointed out, you see, the beauty of democracy and the beauty of nationhood is that majority will have their way, minority will have their say. No, and I've advocated this over and over again. You have representative from the Northeast in the National Assembly. You have representative from the Southeast in the National Assembly. We have representative in the National Assembly from the Southwest, across South-South, Northeast, North Central, and the rest of it. Now, if you have senators, and you have governors, and you have local government chairman elected, charity begins at home. I've said it. Let us hold accountable the government that is closest to us. That's why some of us have made a demand that, you know what, we should take away local government election from the purview of the state's government. It should be conducted by INEC. Two, we should have a situation whereby the local government will be rescued from the appendage of the state so that people can take responsibility of governance at their local level. So hold your local government chairman accountable.
Okay.
Hold your House of Assembly members accountable. Hold your House of Rep members accountable. Hold the senator representing your senatorial district accountable. Hold the commissioner. Commissioners are nominated at the state level based on local government. Just like we nominate ministers based on state, based on federal character principle, which that each state must have a minister. So until we begin to hold them accountable at that level, all of these shenanigans of using threat, violence will not solve the problem. Will not. What will solve our problem is to hold those we have given the responsibility to manage public affairs accountable. Look, I have said it. Abuja cannot solve. Let me give you a typical illustration I've given to my student. You have a man that has 36 wives and one concubine, and is a man who will take care of the children. He has 36 wives and a concubine. You know the 36 wives are the 36 states in Nigeria. The concubine is Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Now, the man is the president. How can the man, if you have that, if you play that in a family scenario, it is the women that will take care of the children. And in that family, at that level, every eldest child in that family, in each of the three, will take care of their siblings. And that's the local government. You see, by nature and by design, there's no way the presidency can solve the problem of Nigeria. That's why we created states. That's why we created local government. But you know what? Everyone, I have said it, if we are looking forward to solving Nigerian problem with 2023 election, a lot of people will be disappointed. Look, in 1999, Obasanjo was the leader we can trust. In 2015, Buhari was changed. Just like they went to prison to look for Obasanjo and bring him out to thinking that he will solve Nigerian problem. They call him. It's the same way we went to Katsina Daura to go and bring Buhari to come back and contest the election. What has changed? So there is the need for us to come back to the basic. What is the basic? Begin to ask people at the local level that are representing you question. Let's make them accountable. That's when we build strong institutions. But if we believe the presidency, and that's the problem with these various insurgent groups, they think that the problem of the Southeast is not the president of Nigeria. And I've explained this. The problem of the Southwest or Northeast or whatever is not the. Look, we have had 2 presidents from Katsina. We have had president from the Southwest. We have had vice president. Technically, both are from Ogun State. Same, we have had president from Katsina. We have had president from Bayelsa. Did the flood excuse Bayelsa? The flood that happened recently, did he excuse Bayelsa? So the basic thing for all of these groups to understand is that rather than be fighting the federal government, concentrate your effort in making whoever you have elected as your representative at the local level accountable.
Okay. Reverend Dominic in Alimosho, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Yori. Good morning to Doctor. How are you?
Great, sir.
Yeah. Yori, I totally agree with your guest this morning. You know my position in insurgents in Nigeria. We used to have a friend, one of our friends, that I don't know, Alhaji, I can't remember his name now, who came to your program one day many months ago. And I was saying that if we want the insurgents to stop, that the governors of each state knows people who are troubling us. And that one of that our friend, you know him, he lives in Lekki, was trying to come down on me.
Yes.
You know the person I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know him, Alhaji what? I don't remember now. But today, who is right, who is wrong? El-Rufai have listed the names of people who is troubling Kaduna. In Katsina, the governor of Katsina called them for dialogue. In Zamfara, the governor, what I'm trying to say, in Southeast, Yori, we know our brothers, whether they're non-government or IPOP, if they are brothers, we know them. If we must solve this problem, it's not from Abuja. Every locality the Katsina people must come together. The Kaduna businessmen, I've said before, businessmen, political leaders, religious leaders, they will come together and say enough is enough. Why are we selling our children and buying them at we? Who are we paying ransom? The train accident, the people that we pay ransom, we know where they are. We took money to them, we took our brothers. What kind of deceit is this? The problem of Nigeria is not from the capital, it's from the state. To look at government, we know these people, it's our brothers. Yori, if me, Yori, tomorrow become an insurgent, does it mean you don't know me again? Just answer me that question. If me or my friend there in the studio pick up gun tomorrow against his own school of journalists, it doesn't mean we don't know him again. Knowing him is it a crime? He may have his anger, and the anger in Nigeria is too many to go around. The problem of Nigeria, we must solve it from the down, bottom up. Talk to the local government, talk to our governors, let the governors talk to our brothers. Most of these people that trouble us are touts for governors. Most of these people that trouble us, governors know them one-on-one. They have helped them one time or the other. You know the story of Boko Haram in Borno, how it started. Kashima can tell this very well. This Kashima gave Yusuf and his company 2 commissioners, Commissioner of Religious Affairs and Commissioner of what. Kashima is still alive. We know them. We can solve this problem if we want to solve it. Number 2, next year, insurgents will not stop Nigeria election. You know how we do it here? They will go quiet. Either we beg them to surrender until we finish our election. It's possible. The people who knew them will beg them, either paying them or not. I'm very sure by next year, election will go on without this insurgent issue. Thank you, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. Reverend Dominic said, look, it's not as if there are no challenges, but it's not going to be able to, affect the election negatively. I imagine that will also be the business and the main concern of all the people who are in charge, who were democratically granted the charge to run the affairs of the country. They're not going to sit down there, I hope, of course, and let anybody come along and disrupt. But the point that Reverend Dominic sort of doubled down on, your original point, that these things have to start not from the top, but from the bottom up. And the president has said so on some other occasions. I remember speaking with him, the rare occurrence where the president will speak to the nation in an interview format. I think he has said that, look, let the states sort themselves out. Let the local governments, in fact, there was a time when he tried to empower local governments. Remember? I don't know. Are those efforts not yielding fruit?
How do communities respond to threat of armed robbery? How do we start vigilante group? You recall Lagos was under threat in the 90s. We knew what led to the establishment of Operation Sweep. And we knew how each community used to keep vigil. Everybody will come out, and by 4, you do tons and stuff like that. And that was how. And then the state came up with Operation Sweep. And before you know it, the threat of armed robbery and the rest of it was eradicated.
It had become too hot
people,
for them.
Exactly. People played a role in it. Now, any policy you do that you don't have a buy-in of the people at the local level, you cannot achieve any given result. There is no doubt that these actors and players knew who these people are. That's the truth. That's what Reverend Dominic is. Uncle Yori, the community I lived in, I've lived in that community for more than 45 years. I knew all the trouble spot in that area. That would take us to another area which we talk about in terms of policing. Policing, and we have advocated this, that let whoever is going to be the divisional police officer of a particular area be somebody that knew that area.
That knows the area, if not from the area. So it's even better if it's from the area.
Yeah, it's better if it's from the area.
But as you know, what they're doing now, maybe it's in the interest of national character, they bring someone from Kauranamoda to come and
that's not national
police.
Interest. That's
you
not
know,
national. That's not national interest.
Let me quickly take Fidel. Good morning, Fidel in Owerri.
Thank you very much, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Fidel Onyeneke, and I want to say that we mustn't hide the truth, whether we like it or not. Insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and all these other nefarious activities will affect the 2023 election, if not properly checked. That is why I want to suggest that the federal government should liaise with security agencies and then all the states. In addition to members of the National Assembly and state assemblies, they must engage religious leaders, traditional leaders, women, youth groups, and so on, and come on a round table. Find a way of assuaging the people. First of all, everybody that is protesting or agitating, there are reasons. Give them that promise, firm promise that, okay, lay down your tools. Let us have peace and have peaceful elections. Engage people and be sincere in that engagement. It will give everybody opportunity to carry out their campaigns and so on and so forth. If we don't do this, if we assume that all is well and so on, it will definitely scuttle the 2023 election. We must be decisive and take a decision that we actually have the system. Thank you, and God bless you. I'm Fidel Onyeneke.
Thank you very much, Fidel, for calling in. Just as you said, what does a society, a community do when it feels threatened? They've got to mobilize. They've got to own the defensive mechanism. Where a situation where they say that it doesn't concern us, let the government do what it needs to do, you've just explained that nothing is going to come out of that until the people own
the
it.
people must, like Fidel pointed out, we have various institutions, formal and informal institutions. You have the traditional institutions. You have the Market Women Association. You have the various youth organizations. And then, Nigeria is divided into territories. You have 774 local governments. Each of these local governments have local government chairman. Each of these local governments have local government secretaries. But the unfortunate thing, and I think that we need to have that as a clause in our constitution. If you're a local government chairman, you must reside within the local government.
Okay.
If you're,
that's not the way it is right now.
That's not the way. Most even governors don't reside in their state. Some are residing in Abuja. So how would they superintend? How would they know what is happening in their state? We recall there's a particular governor from Jigawa State who was recently freed by the federal High Court in Dutse with respect to money laundering and the rest of it. That governor that used to travel. I won't mention his name. So, and then we had a governor that had an accident.
Yes.
It was
yes.
that lost flying. That was flying.
That helicopter pilot.
That lost flying. That used to fly from his state to Abuja, and then would fly back. And then he traveled when there was poor visibility, and then he had an accident. So we have seen a situation whereby people that we have given responsibility to. I'm speaking English. I'm not insulting them. People that we have given responsibility to are irresponsible.
Okay, let me bring in Emmanuel. Thank you very much for holding on, Emmanuel in Otukpo.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
I greet your guest.
All right then. Thank you. Good morning, sir.
The 2023 election, general elections, I don't have any sense whatsoever because I know that this government has the capacity to give us a free, fair, and credible. It has the capacity, the police are there, the army is there, the DSS is there. If they are ready to give us a credible election, they can give it. So we Nigerians too, we should make sure that this election is free and fair and credible. The talks are from our various homes. We know the talks. And we should not allow the talks. We should guide our children, advise them not to participate at talks in the election. Rather, they should carry their PVCs and go and vote for their candidates of their choice. So that we'll have a free and fair election, 2023. We cannot afford to joke with this democracy. We have come far in it. After the 20-something years, we can't truncate it anymore. It's not nascent again. Our democracy has come to stay. And where giants like Tinubu are coming in to contest Ethiopia and the rest, I think we have come far and we must continue in democracy.
Indeed.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for calling.